Here you are. Here's some dreamies. Look, socks up here. Oh. Hello everyone. It's Wednesday afternoon and Socks is having some cat treats. And the sun's kind of come out. It's been lashing down. It lashed down yesterday and we had a day out in Yorkshire. We went with our friends Jamie and Kyle for a day out. And Socks stayed at home because he doesn't like days out. We went to Hebden Bridge, which is about half an hour outside of town, although it takes a bit longer to drive, which is a nice village with a bookshop and cafes. And we had some lunch there. And it's a place I used to go a lot when the Arvon Foundation would have me teaching at Lumbank up the hill, near where Sylvia Plath is buried in Heptonstall. And for years and years I would go and teach creative writing courses there, week-long residential courses, from 1996 onwards, almost annually. And they had been doing it for years, till about 2008, at which point they forgot who I was, which is a shame. I used to love teaching those courses. So I was very familiar with Hebden Bridge. So we had a bimble around there, and then we got in the car and went over the moors and went to Haworth to look around in a couple of bookshops and gift shops there, and the pub for dinner. There's a nice pub called the White Lion where they do a steak pie, and we had a few hours there. And all in all, walking around these towns, we walked exactly 6,997 steps, 3 steps short of the 7,000 steps that I think the government suggests is a good number per day, which is funny. We went to Wave of Nostalgia bookshop in Haworth and peered in windows of closed shops. Tuesday's not a good day for going shopping, it turns out. What else? On the way over the moors, Jamie, who was driving, told us about his AI travelling companion on his phone, I think, and it's one of these chat bot things that talks in a kind of very unctuous American voice and is very subservient and agrees with everything and comes up with interesting information about, travel issues and roadworks and so on, but also gets into very philosophical areas when pushed. Jamie apparently had asked him, what do I do if I believe I'm in the wrong dimension? And this chat robot, who we called Barry in the end, said that's quite understandable and gave him some suggestions to do with the multiverse. So it kind of mixes up all kinds of bits of nonsense, really, this AI stuff. And when he was asked, this is Barry, the robot, so we were driving along towards Haworth, what do we do in Haworth? He came up with a very generic answer that anybody could have got by, looking it up. There's the Bronte Parsonage Museum, there's cobbled streets, and all manner of bookish vibes, he said. And a throwaway joke was made about practicing Satanists and witches, what with it coming up to Halloween. And Barry, the AI bot, was less than impressed and said, there's not that kind of thing. It's just the wholesome bookish vibes. So I kind of took issue with that because I said, surely Wuthering Heights is a precursor to all those Gothic novels, or rather, it's written in the wake of Gothic novels, isn't it? And a precursor to others. And surely Heathcliff is described as the devil. And the Barry, the AI bot, said that, that's a metaphor, he told me, from the dashboard. And I said, yes, but the ghost in the first chapter is real, isn't it? Cathy Earnshaw's ghost is real, putting its hand through the window. And at the end, Heathcliff and Cathy are walking the moors as ghosts forever, aren't they? They haunt the moors. And Barry decided that, yes, that was true. So he changed his mind completely, but with no acknowledgement that he got it wrong before. So he, like the unctuous fool he is, Barry the AI bot, just gravitated towards my opinion. So it was all quite frightening, really, and quite funny to be arguing about Wuthering Heights with a robot on the way to Haworth. I shall remember that. I did get quite annoyed though. Surely the ghosts are real in Wuthering Heights. Now, reading here, I finished the murder mystery book with animals, Shady Hollow by Juno Black, and even though the synopses of the next couple sound quite intriguing, I'm not sure I'll be progressing with this series much further. I found it, like I said before, lacking in atmosphere, lacking in any kind of real feel for the characters. They are types. Even a Richard Scarry cartoon book, you feel more about the characters when there's no actual narrative, it's just pictures of them. These feel very cookie cutter. There's nothing to surprise us, really. And even the revelation of who done it wasn't that surprising. I feel bad for being down on it. I really wanted there to be this kind of book existing with a cosy town full of suddenly murderous animals. Seems like a nice idea to me, but this isn't quite it. I wasn't, as the other book vloggers say, I didn't vibe with it exactly. I should try not to use the phrases that other people use in these things. I will never say I'm so excited about something, and I will never say, without further ado, let's get down to it. And I won't say, in this book, we follow such and such a character. I'll try and avoid those phrases that everybody uses. So I'm sorry about this. I like it less and less the more I think about it afterwards, and it felt like a little bit of a chore in finishing it. Let me know if anybody else has read that or that series. I know it's got fans. This book has its fans. It's been read by millions of people, apparently. I'm currently a third of the way through Butter by Azako Yuzuki. This is our book club choice. I chose it for our book club. We discuss it next week, which is unusual because usually I've read the things that I suggest. And for some reason, this leapt into my head, and I don't know why. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's one of those books that everything becomes sinister and peculiar. There's something very strange about it. At the moment, I'm reading a scene in which a woman cooks, she's baking a cake with her drinking buddy round his house, essentially. And maybe there's a frisson of sexual tension between them, but the bigger tension is between her and the woman she's visiting in prison and writing an article about. She's writing about a 3-time killer, suspected killer. This woman who has taken on older men and says she's playing a kind of traditional female role and hates feminists and hates margarine and eats all these exotic foods with lots of rich ingredients, and that's her thing. There's lots about food and seducing our main character with her tales of food and using the journalist to experience things in the outside world that the murderess can't experience now that she's locked up. But everything has this underlying tension, so even the scene of baking a cake, you wonder what's going to happen. And somehow it's imbued with that tension all the way through, which I know is a very difficult thing to do. I was thinking about just the opening scenes of this, which hooked me, even though all you get is a woman going to visit her friend, and they have a conversation about this woman in prison, and we get a sense of somebody's household and their husband, and nothing much goes on, but there's something tense about it, and it's like you begin at a high point and you're rushing downhill into the story, and you have to go with it. And I was thinking about how lots of books just begin on the level and stay on the level, and you pootle along with it, waiting for something exciting to go on. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't, but it's like you're pushing it along a bit. You have to make a conscious effort. And sometimes with some books, it's like an uphill struggle. And for some reason, especially in books that identify as literary fiction, and I've made jokes about this before, they make it as difficult as possible for the reader getting into them, as if that was some kind of badge of honour for both reader and writer. You know, this is not enjoyable, this is difficult, this is thick with illusion and dense with complexity. So well done for sticking with it. You found a lot of that attitude when I was teaching on the MA at UEA. Lots of pretension about things like that. Didn't help that they were being taught Thomas Pynchon and Umberto Eco and, you know, all those people, Rushdie, on other courses at the same time, which encouraged them to, you know, use the whole postmodern bag of tricks. And it's like setting landmines and traps in the first page, defying the reader to get into it. And so sometimes some books are like a severe ascent where you've got to chuck your grappling hooks onto the page to get up there into the story. But mostly they're pootling along on the level, and the author doesn't quite know how to excite you in the slightest. But with this, I feel like we're at the top from the start, with nothing much going on, but somebody gives us a hefty push from behind and we plummet quite sharply into this story of, I think, quite strange perviness. There's something quite kinky, to use an old-fashioned word, about this, and I'm still figuring it out, and why it's as popular as it is. I think because it's seeking to redefine or talk about definitions of the place of women, and the whole idea of being, you know, a traditional female and wife, or being, you know, a woman in the world doing her own thing and giving in to appetites. And the murderess in the heart of it, at the heart of this, seems to do both. She has it both ways. She has her rich buttery cake and eats it. And I think those books will always be popular, books that look at the role of women and their freedom in society. I think that's always been a kind of cornerstone of heartstone of fiction, of the novel. It's a kind of erotic and gastronomic picaresque novel with slightly pervy undertones. And I'm going to get through it, hopefully, by the end of the week, and ready for book club next week. Next week's very busy around here. We've got a trip to see the recording, to be at the recording. I've got to work of my new play for radio. That's part of next week. So there's a lot going on, a lot of seeing people and doing stuff. And actually the rest of this week's looking fairly busy with a few things that I need to plan. I'm doing a podcast interview again, another one, this time about Brenda and Effie, with the novelist Essie Fox, who's got a gothic podcast. So I'm doing that tomorrow. I'm having a meeting about an art show we're planning here for Levenshume in October, which is going to be abstracts in autumn. So there's going to be a bit more abstract painting going on around here for a special night in October. So they're all really interesting things. They're all lovely things. And meanwhile, I'm writing a couple of new projects that I can't quite talk about yet. And publishing tomorrow my 1001 Nights and Time and Space, my book with Steve Cole, which I've talked about a few times on here. And there's a reading of the beginning of this a couple of days ago on my channel here. So that's me. How are you? Tell me what's going on in the comments below. I love, as you know, getting your comments and hearing what's going on and answering questions and all that stuff as well. And I must remind you that I do have a membership part of this vlog now. You can become a member and pay a bit of money and see extra stuff that I'll be doing on here, early views of videos, things like that, and maybe other stuff as well when I figure it out. So thank you for your attention again, and I will see you all again quite soon. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.